Hey, what's going on, everybody? Lamont here, filling in just one more time as I do have to travel today to leave for Portugal. So I believe Lori will be with y'all tomorrow, if not Thursday latest. Either way, let us get into it here. So starting off with Spy, we're still in this forever balance. It's obviously not forever, but it's going on like 3 weeks now of we're just trading sideways here. However, as the thumbnail alluded to, buyers never die. It's kind of a joke, but I mean, you think about it long term, buyers never die, right? Like eventually, I'm sure once humanity crumbles, or at least the US economy does, I'm sure buyers will die. But for now, buyers are being very resilient here. We're primarily concerned with 56516. As long as we're holding above it, then the new higher prices relative to the prior all-time high are being accepted. We care about this guy because this is the local area of prior supply now acting as demand. All of this price action is constructive as long as they can hold over this 819 to 830 structure. And within the local daily balance, buyers are starting to edge out a little bit here again. So remember that this balance is persisting. It's, again, just balancing. As long as you're seeing multiple tests of the DVAL, the developing value area high, and the DVAL, the developing value area low. So how can one side within this balance start edging out? They have to start finding acceptance over the DPOC if you're a buyer, or below it if you're a seller, and then holding over the DVA, the developing value area high, to actually move value higher relative to this local balance. And you have to hold under the DVAL to move value lower relative to all this local balance. So very notable that today you got an open pretty much smack dab in the middle of yesterday's range, failed to come down to the DVAL, and now you're finding acceptance back over the DVA again. So going forward for these buyers, the goal is to now hold over the DPOC at 571.35, let's call it, and then the DVA at 572.16, let's call it. Holding over the DVA is the best case scenario. Holding over the DPOC puts them positioned well for another go at holding over the DVA and another go at the all-time high resistance, 574.71. So that's pretty much it for the SPY. Moving on to the Qs here. Oops. So QQQ is similar, except we're continuing to watch this all-time high supply here from July 5th to July 16th. The low of the structure is at 490.73, so these buyers coming just shy of testing that low today. Of course, they need acceptance over that low in order to negate the change of this breakdown. All of this price action is essentially the buyers trying to negate this breakdown, and they don't do so without acceptance over 490.73 first. Okay, so very similar in that relative to, or rather, I should talk about the key demand zone. So here's our key demand zone. This consolidation, this sideways trade over here is constructive as long as we're holding over the back test of this 815 to 830 structure. That's this prior supply currently acting as demand. You can see how the value area high of this structure held price here, held price here, held price here. And then since then, we've not had a test of the value area high. So I think it's notable that for 3 sessions in a row now, these sellers failed to get down to the DVAL of this local range. It's the same idea here. What the goal for the buyers is to maintain over the DPOC. It's at roughly 482.90, let's call it, and then hold over the DVA at roughly 468.80, which would then allow these buyers to move value higher relative to all of this local balance, which of course would mean that they're constructed within this balance. So in order for one side to slightly edge out, it's all about the DPOC. Okay, in order for them to advance, they need the DVA or the DVAL. Okay, the buyers need the DVA, the sellers need the DVAL. All right, so that's pretty much it. Daily higher low has been set at 480.87 into a higher high, but we know we're still within all of this local balance, so we're not getting too ahead of ourselves here. That being said, I still would prefer to be a buyer, right? Like, because again, there's not really any meaningful selling or in the market right now. There is overhead supply in the QQQ, so if you wanted to be a seller, out of the SPY or the QQQ, you'd probably pick the Qs. And that would just be like looking for extension into 496.29 that doesn't see follow through and then selling right back down under it, throwing a stop over the local high, and then just trying to get back into this range. I personally would just continue to stick with buys. I haven't really been bearish in a very long time. And I continue to maintain that that's fine. Like, whether that could change tomorrow, surely, but I would need to see acceptance under 474.40 first in order for me to start being confident as a seller in the NQ. And even then, I would just really be looking for a test of this guy over here. So that's pretty much it for the Qs. Moving on to IWM. And IWM, again, it's just continuing to be a battle for this 217.38 level. That's this point of control over here. This POC, as long as you're holding over this POC at 217.38, then this structure is being affirmed as demand. As long as this structure is being affirmed as demand, then the buyers will be positioned well to have a go at all-time highs. And that's really it. Acceptance over 217.38 should have these buyers trying for a test of the value area high at 222.28. Daily higher low trying to be set here at 215.87. Got to break over 218.37 tomorrow in order for us to have confidence in that daily higher low being set at 215.87. If the higher low is set at 215.87, then again, eyes on 222.28. That should be the next buyer objective. If lower lows under 215.08, then eyes on 211.48. That should be the next seller objective. Okay. Moving on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin here, still just hanging out in this range. So rejection from the value area high of this all-time high structure means that the seller should be trying to get back down to 61003.36. If they fail to get back down to 61003.36, of course, that would be a notable failure. Their goal for the buyers, hold over 61003.36 and then find acceptance over 64489.08, which is just the value area high of that all-time high structure. Because of course, if you're holding over the value area high of the all-time high structure, then you are building value higher relative to the old value area high, which is obviously constructed, again, relative to the prior all-time high structure. So if acceptance over 64489.08, then the next buyer objective should be 69K. That's the old all-time high. That's the high of this guy over here. Okay. And then, of course, if you get over that, then it's just this little bit of daily supply over here in the way before new all-time highs. Alrighty, so that's pretty much it. If you don't see acceptance over this value area high, move back down under 61003.36. It's right back to eyeing 59534.60. And then acceptance under there, and I would just be looking to bottom fish off of this like 50 to 54K range, as long as there's extension on the lower time frames, ideally the 4 hour, up to the 4 hour. Apologies for the mess behind me. I just realized, just packing. So anyway, moving on to gold here. So gold, more significant daily retracement now, daily lower high and lower low. I continue to maintain that these are our key daily structures. So we care primarily about this one because there's much more value established here. You can just see how much higher volume over here compared to over here. And this guy, its location is also more important, right? This guy's just kind of floating in the air, a little bit of pause on this move up. But this fella is sitting on top of this much larger area of demand. So there's more value created here, and its location is more meaningful because there is the potential for more change to occur here relative to here. You know what I mean? Because again, this is a big block of demand. Not coming into this big block of demand is obviously best case scenario, bigger picture for these buyers if these sellers continue to press back down into the like 2500s or so. So I think this is a very reasonable trade area as long as you are trade zone. As long as you have extension, lower time frame extension coming into these areas, I think it's reasonable to be looking for those plays for the buy side. Once you get back under here, it's definitely red flaggy because acceptance under here means we should expect price action like this. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Space for a daily lower high under 2690.6. 4 hour time frame, your low time frame guide. 4 hour chart is also looking for a lower high under 2672.4. Moving on to oil here. So oil, big old turnaround here. So not too surprising because if you just zoom out here, you'll see that there's a very high volume node pretty much smack dab in the middle of all of this supply over here. And this move was pretty much straight off of the low. So no surprise that they got caught up at that volume here. That being said, lots of space for a daily higher low to be set over 66.33. Anything over that's going to be good for one. And this so far, there's a notable failure on the seller's part to not be able to get a price back under 72.40 to negate this breakout. Holding over this high, 72.40, affirms all of this local demand. And so holding over this local demand is essentially the same as holding over this guy. And holding over this guy, we should expect price action like this. Okay? So I still think it's a very reasonable trade zone. Ideally, you'll have extension up into the 4 hour before, at least the hourly, before using this area as a trade zone. If you hold this area as demand, these sellers should be trying, these buyers, should be trying to come here. And then after that, they should be trying to come here. This big guy over here, because all of this price action has been dictated by this demand and this supply, and then of course this guy sitting on top of this guy, which is what we're looking to backtest right now. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then nat gas daily retracement continues, finding its way back under 2.742 is not a good look for these buyers. As long as you're holding under 2.742, these sellers should be trying to come here, 2.564. That's their next seller objective. Space for a daily lower high to be set under 3.019. Anything under that's going to be good for one. I don't care if it ever comes back down here. I never get to know that. What I do know is what I would do if it does get to a location, and I would be interested in a play over here because this is an area of change where you have this demand zone sitting on top of this much larger demand zone, and it was affirmed as demand on this breakout. So this breakout is not negated without acceptance back under 2.436 and without acceptance back under 2.333 to affirm this structure as supply. Then this guy's acting as demand. If this guy's acting as demand, then we're not coming back down into here. So extension into this location, I think, is very reasonable for buys if you're looking for a weekly higher low play, and nat gas with anything over 1.875 being good for one. All right. And then finally, the dollar. So the dollar retracement so far is very healthy. So it's very similar to nat gas and oil. If these sellers can't get back down under 101.855, then of course all of this is being affirmed as demand. If all of this is being affirmed as demand, then we should expect more price action like this. All of this balance so far in 2022 and 2023 up until now has been dictated by this area of demand and this area of supply. You can see how it was affirmed many times. Both guys were affirmed many times. And so holding over the key demand zone should have these sellers, or the buyers, trying to get back up to this supply zone. On the way up to the supply zone is this area, a backtest of this area, this local supply, this local supply, this local supply. So just work through one at a time. And as of right now, breaking back over 101.855 is essentially changed relative to here. And now you'll notice the back test of this point of control at 102.145, that's the POC of this guy over here. As of right now, not much follow through under it. The next objective would be the value area low, 101.915, and then the daily no change level, 101.855. So the fact that we broke down under it and didn't really find that much acceptance is a good look for these dollar buyers. As long as we're holding over 102.145, that increases the potential that these buyers are trying to go for a test of this key supply up here. Okay, so that is it. That's it, right? Yes. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for sharing some of your time and energy with me. If you got anything out of that video, we would very much appreciate a like and subscribe. Costs you nothing, helps us out a lot. Otherwise, I appreciate you sharing some of your time and energy with me. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I hope to see y'all soon.